Right. We have your match here, Ashley, against Ethan Crelinsten. An absolute banger of a match, if I might say. Really good thing. There are two main fights that are going on, or three main fights that are going on inside of this one fight. And the first is your knee slice positions, and then accessing sort of the head and arm chokes and trying to access the back. And then there's the leg entanglement battles where we seem to get into a lot of 50-50 exchanges. So if we can improve the outcome inside the 50-50, then you'll be able to either work into a passing situation, which I think really the best thing for you to work into is some tight pressure passing, or to just avoid the leg locks here. But it's not necessarily a good position for you to be in, because even the attempts at heel hooks are scoring in the Polaris rule set. And then the third position is you avoiding the back take at all costs and not wanting Ethan to get even close towards your back. But if you also notice here in the match is we are sort of, I wouldn't say dominating on the feet, but you're definitely winning all of the exchanges in a standing situation. Ethan doesn't want to tie up with you at all. He's just trying to get to wrist control, trying to hand fight with you, trying to get the elbows out of the way and clear that elbow line so that he can try to get to a 2-on-1 or to some wrist control. But even with that first exchange, we made a shot. We landed on bottom from your shot, but then we're able to reshoot with a body lock finish. And I think your takedown ability is what really gets you the win, apart from this first 5 minutes, which is completely dominating. You get the guard pass in and just really control him in a top position. It later gets a little bit more difficult. This was a really good counter from that takedown. Let's just watch that back one more time. So watch, you have your underhook off of his shot, so then you're prepared to go immediately into a knee slice, and you've got him buried with that deep underhook. Do a really good job there entering into the legs. If you notice, all of Ethan's defenses, most of them here, for him to re-guard, he has to invert. And that's because we're passing around his guard rather than through it. This was a really good chance. We need to start to work in, while he's inverted, bringing his hips to central and then driving forwards into that position, as opposed to coming around his legs, because we see this inversion all the time. The legs get thrown over and we come through. So we either need to pass through the legs, or when we do pass around, we immediately follow by squaring up to his hip line and squashing his inversion and forcing his legs on a parallel line to his head. But again, from this point, you're doing a great job of the control in the inside space. So we're nullifying all of his leg entries, and then we're putting loads of pressure on to score this passing. The only thing I would add into this passing sequences is potentially a lung step-like movement. I use that a lot. Not lung step going around, but more of like a hip switch lung step, where you get very tight to your partner's hip. I'll just show you a video of it here of me using it. And the only other part that I would do is when you get to situations like this is one, tighten up this arm triangle a little bit, try and get a little bit more flush with your right arm. I know at this point here we're trying to get closer towards attacking the back than the arm triangle, and also he's moving around so much, so it is very difficult to solidify the position. And the other attack I would add in is a 180 arm bar while you've got this underhook. This was a really nice transition to start to attack the back and then put him under loads of pressure. Here I would redirect my knee to a mount rather than forcing the side control, because what he's going to do is try to get up into turtle again and regain to the guard. There is one point where we need to exactly see how he starts a turtle and then that knee comes back in. Let's go back to this section. So while we're here, we've got this head and arm control. I would switch that to be much deeper. I'd put my middle finger up here in his armpit. So this would go up and make a grip. This left hand over here I would actually grab onto Ethan's head. So grab the head and twist his head in this direction, bringing his ear down towards his shoulder and this line. See? And then my knee would immediately go across into the mount to nullify any of this turning. So what ends up happening, you want to keep yourself in guard, because passing the guard doesn't help under these rule sets, and it just allows him to return back to guard. So he bridges, and as he bridges, pops up towards his knee. See, this is where ideally your left knee that's inside his legs would step over and across this line for you to work into your mount. That is literally the only thing I would change. Just try and be a little bit more flush with this arm triangle. As he's framing away here, we do have a potential Darce choke. So rather than, because we have two options here. Beforehand, so as he's moving, while he's framing away, we can feed this left arm through the space under there. Or when he lifts up, get to this wrist control over here and go under his back and grab onto that wrist. And then we can really start flattening him out, sort of a Khabib style grip, which I think he tried to get. Yeah, you're reaching for it a couple of times, but he's doing a good job of inverting. But so much pressure here with this knee slice, you just put him through his guard all the time. We sit back into guard, we're into sort of a single leg X situation, but again, you sweep pretty quickly after this. I think if I were you, I'd prefer to stay on top and just coast a little bit. Nice omoplata sweep here, and then back into some passing exchanges. The other part of that, the sort of strategy behind that sweep, is that you might get a better passing position off of a sweeping exchange as opposed to just trying to get to a good passing position from top position. So nice little change in strategy there too. But yeah, I think the only times where Ethan starts to get to some good situations is when you play on bottom, and then he's able to try and put pressure back on you. Of course, we have the element of getting a little bit tired and things. But I would tend to try to rest on top of him rather than on bottom. If you notice, he's going with sort of a wristwatch grip. This is like an steamer lock entry where you reach with your far wrist towards the ankle to get a lot more leverage. Real nice pressure on this leg drag here. Again, he bails out of any leg entry because of the pressure that you're putting on him. So you're doing a great job. Even when he is getting to leg entanglements and potential heel hooks, we're stuffing that. This is where we get into a bit of a tight position. So he was able to advance past your knee line, get into a knee slice, but we do again a great job recovering. Both of your guard recovery is pretty much unbelievable, to come into some bad spots but then recover back. There's a potential knee bar here. He sits back into guard. I would consider trying to get to some better positions before attempting these heel hooks. So you can throw this leg over to the inside and really cause a threat in more of a 50-50 or a saddle position, which you end up doing, but then his legs are crossed around yours as well. And now if you notice, a lot of the time in the fight, Ethan is pinning his knee to the ground. It's almost like he's trying to switch his hips to come into a knee bar-like situation to get underneath his far leg. I don't know whether it's to, one, to protect his legs, and two, to split yours, or whether it is to sit through into the knee bar, because once he has opened up your legs, he's not returning back into a leg lock. So I feel like he's trying to prepare for the knee bar toe hold combination from that point. But yeah, for you, I would go, like you were doing then, bring that out into a waiter sweep, come out of this position, because you're winning every other exchange. This is where things become more neutral. I would definitely throw that leg back over your head, get into a waiter sweep, start attacking the back, but I wouldn't necessarily exchange leg locks, because I feel like just because he's a Danaher Death Squad member, he immediately gets points if he's looking around your legs. So I would definitely look at avoiding all of these. You're doing a great job shin circling each time, bringing your feet back towards the inside. And that's really what it comes down to here, is obviously he's trying to attack your legs and we're coming up trying to force this knee on the ground to get to a tight leg drag position to finish off this passing. Here's a potential back take that we're looking for, but we can't hit it unless your leg is the other side. See how this is completely stuck in here? This left foot is stuck on this side of Ethan's body. We need to try to get that across. We get into a bit of trouble here. He's going into a belly down heel hook. Brings that across exactly, nice pressure. I would consider closing a triangle. So when we get towards this point, he's doing a good job of posting you away and putting your weight down over here. If we take this right knee and we slide that behind Ethan's legs to close a triangle over here, then we can really start to put some pressure, forcing this knee onto the ground, and then coming into more of a, again, arm triangle situation over here. But it will be tough while he's framing away and getting these knees back inside. But that is one of the key things when it comes to passing with that pressure type leg drag from the 50-50. Once you do pass your leg towards the other side, you need to drop immediately to your hip to close a triangle, and then we can inch our way into passing, because we're not going to be able to do that against a tougher guard. We come into a bit of a false reap situation. We've got a half butterfly, we get an almost sweep, doing a good job again controlling the inside space. You've always got potentials for attacking the inside of these legs. And we also have the attacks on the arms as well every time he's posting his hands on the floor. So you do have an ability to go into the straight arm lock. We have an almost potential saddle here, but we do get stuffed. This is one issue that comes in here. So once you've got this, we've got this half butterfly, we have the potential of attacking this back leg over here if we bring this heel to the inside of the legs. But that's going to be stuffed here with all this head pressure. So we need a better control underneath Ethan's armpit to be directing his weight across this direction for you to then enter and lift his knee off the ground. Because he's doing a great job of keeping his toes hooked in. You'll even reach through to grab onto that heel in the second, and that's not budging at all, you see. He pummels his leg back to the inside and scores a nice pass across towards this side here. Again, he doesn't have the underhook on the side he needed, so you were able to recover right away and then start to invert. Inverted triangle. Beautiful. Now, when you're attacking this, so what ends up happening is the legs start shuffling in. You can see you go to close into this position. Okay, now when we get to this situation, we can go inverted close guard. Close both legs around to here. Inverted close guard is also a donkey guard. And then you have a barrage of attacks on toe holds and access towards the back. Very much like what Sergio Hernandez uses. Or, if you're looking to attack this inverted triangle, we need to switch your hips. So rather than being on a parallel line, we need to get to a perpendicular line. This heel needs to close in towards the armpit, and this knee needs to twist in towards the heel. You see, so we need a little bit of like a hip escape like motion, but it's going to be hard to do with your head stuck in here. So he ends up getting his head free, and then this is what you need to be doing to his inversion. You see how he's burying this in? You see, all he has to do for him to finish the pass is stay here. You see, this is, notice how he can't pass your guard while you're on your side. So he reaches inside both of your legs, going to like a double unders from the opposite situation. Then all he's got to do is stay on a parallel line to you, same line as your head and hips, and literally just drive forward, and then he's able to score the pass. Exactly. You turn, but then you don't want to give up the back, so we accept the side control. But take that lesson of him passing your guard and relate that to your guard passing. So when we're getting into these knee slice positions and you're passing around Ethan's guard, he's immediately going to throw the legs over, and almost every person you compete with is going to react this way. And that's going to be your response, is going sort of an inverted double unders. I won't say sort of reverse stack pass, because that's something else that we're using, but maybe an inverted double unders. You do a great job defending this triangle, and you're out. We're into our last round. So, you won the first very comfortably. Ethan won the second with that mount exchange at the end, even though it was short-lived. So now it's all down to this final round, and this is what really makes this such an exciting match. So this is the threats here. If you notice, when he's underneath your hips, this is where the power hook exchanges come in. Yeah, so as he's coming into position here, he wants to get underneath your waist, lifting your hip up. So you can try to come up on top if you free this knee. So if this knee over here is free, then you can begin trying to come up on top and search for an underhook with this hand inside this space. But if the knee is not free, then when you come up on top, he has his hip escaping underneath you to get closer under your hips. So instead of framing into his throat, think about feeding an underhook here, and then you'll be able to create some space. But also, if your knee comes through, then you'll be able to score your passing across this way. And see, if this left knee goes to the mat over here, then even with him threatening the back, you would be able to top spin and come around his head in this direction. We retreat to the backs, we feel the threat of the back take. He's coming up into a leg drag-like scenario. Now this is where there's a chance for you to start attacking this leg. Now, you can bury it for a toe hold if we did have the 50-50. But one thing is, if this knee retracts to the inside of Ethan's legs, we can come out to a twister hook / matrix / power hook type sort of situation on this leg over here. So your left knee, your left instep would be hooking on his knee line, and your right instep would be hooking on his shin, and then you can start accessing his back. We can't see it very clearly from this angle, but we're getting a bit closer to it here. See, if your knee is on the inside of his legs, he is more than likely going to win the exchanges when it comes to this berimbolo-like battle. So you need, when we go back a stage, when we're here and you have the chance to retract your knee, you need to bring your head outwards, this way, and your knee inwards. What ends up happening is Ethan rolls back towards his left hip to start attacking the back again, and then again we see that follow-up again. We come back into the same scenario where you can find either free this left knee or underhook with the right hand. He comes out into passing. He's trying to get into some good positions. You do a great job recovering your hips, and then we have a slight pause, get your breath back, recompose yourself, and go balls to the wall for 4 minutes. Let's skip this along. Oh, this was the nice toe to the face. Okay. So we get reset from standing, where you are winning. These are all the important parts of these Polaris matches, is when you come, you're winning the takedown position. Funny, because the commentators are talking about your wrestling, but it's only Dan Strauss that really what's the word, vouches for you and says about your arm drag to single. But you're winning all the exchanges on the feet. The first one, we got the body lock takedown. The second one, we sprawled hard and found the underhook into a very near pass. And then we're going to score a nice little sweep single in the second. And this is the difference maker. When it comes down to being so close on the ground, your takedowns is what is really making a huge difference. He's trying to work into a Taraka Plata. Did a great job recovering there. And this is the again, your best position. Just keep working here. Stay on top. He tries to go into a toe hold. The best thing to do here, rather than dropping back, is to stay up on top. I know we're sort of, if you exchange in sort of a leg lock shootout, then it almost nullifies the attack because it's 1-1 to each other. But when you're defending this leg lock, if your toes stay on the floor, you're very hard to finish. The closer your butt comes to your heel, the easier it is for you to defend that heel hook. So lift your knee off the ground, put all your weight into your toes here, and then this outside heel hook would basically be doing nothing if you're sat back onto your heel. And then you can start working your way out of this entanglement, trying to bring Ethan's right leg across your body into a leg drag, and then again forcing pressure. What we opt to do is sit back and come into an exchange of leg locks, trying to heel hook him back. He gets onto a pretty tight toe hold, but nothing's really going to affect us at this point. While we're underneath here in the 50-50, again, this left hand can be coming underneath the far leg into a waster sweep-like position, and the right knee could be coming in here. I would be looking for those situations for you as opposed to sitting in the 50-50. Again, Ethan drops his knee on the ground, trying to switch his hips around to get towards this knee bar-like position. If you follow with him, then it's very hard for him to get there. So if you notice, each time Ethan's trying to switch his hips, you only have to follow with him, almost like you're doing a backwards roll, and the threat of the knee bar is sort of killed every time. But here you can allow yourself to open your legs as well, because you're no longer in threat of the heel hook. He's attempting to sit into the knee bar. Yeah, lift him up, pass him across to that side. You went for it then as well. There's a lot of entries back into that waiter sweep situation I think would work really well for you. You went to a bit of a leg lock exchange, which change it over into a saddle. It's always going to be hard in these exchanges once you're already in the leg entanglement to get the finishes. This is where we saw the breakthrough with Lachlan Giles' ADCC performance, is sort of catching the heel first and then entering into the legs after. This is exactly what we need to do. Clear yourself and then put loads of pressure on in here, because this is where we're winning in these exchanges and where you'll win in other matches as well. This is a nice little top spin here to get over the top of the legs. He's trying to get into the waistline. Instead of jumping onto your shoulders, we should have just cross-faced. So once we got to here, if you sprawl flat, you're going to score that pass. And again, you've got a deep underhook here. So if you brought your right hand into his hip line over here, we'd have sprawled flat into a north-south and scored that guard pass. He's keeping you in the half guard and trying to access your waist over here so that we can start entering into a power hook right here. So all we've got to do is either your left elbow can tuck in, which is, it's already sort of there, or you can let go of the elbow, let him win that battle, and then cross-face him, far cross-face over here behind you. Rather than rolling, you see, this left hand, rather than being inside the legs. Potential for a duck under leg drag, ninja roll option over here as well. And also, you can sit your hip in this direction to then re-entangle back into the legs. So if you are worried about the threat of the back take, you can literally just sit back inside of his legs here and then start attacking the heel hook again. You can pull that back into a 50-50. That might be a nice little entry to catch him by surprise. But this left hand, if you rotate in this direction here, this left hand would be going boom, big cross face over here, and then you would kill his passing. But with your knee inside of his legs, we are struggling with defending power hooks. You need to get your knees free. This is the monumental moment that wins the match for you, because if Ethan would have got that mount position, things may have been different. But that reaction to get him off you, so you clear the back take, he decides to come up to mount. You've already posted up on this elbow and knee. This is a crucial point in the match. These building blocks allow you to stand, shrug him off, and then we get the cheer of the Welsh crowd bringing us on for this final 90 seconds. We go on some final sort of leg lock finishes. In retrospect, I wouldn't attack these scenarios. I would stay on top in your guard passing, especially if you come up with a lot of the people in your division will have a very similar game to Ethan. They're guard players, they are leg lock enthusiasts, so I would stay top position and forcing your guard passing, because that's where you win in the fight. Standing and passing. Stay in those scenarios. Sitting back into the leg locks is bringing you into more of a 50-50 like situation. And 50-50 not the guard, but 50-50 in terms of it's even. This butterfly sweep is the crucial part as well. He gets a super tight underhook. I'm thinking, oh my god, we're in a bad spot, and that hook prevails. So we get into position. Is that right hook He tries to get a little bit too hasty, trying to drive across, bringing his weight to this side of the room. And see, he's trying to pass across towards this way, redirecting that knee. Exactly. Your hook is already here, so he's not above your knee line. He's still on top of the hook. If he'd have spaced his foot out over here, he would have been a lot more successful scoring that guard pass. But considering you have that butterfly hook and the underhook ready to go, you're into an immediate guard pass again. Perfect. I would consider putting this knee back inside the legs here, or potentially over this leg and mounting his legs here as well. But from there, that does the job. We put him on his back, keep his elbow down. There you go, that knee goes back inside. Great work. Sit back for a little last chance heel hook, just for the submission attempts, and that is again one of the best jiu-jitsu matches I've ever watched. So next time somebody says what's the best match you've watched, I won't say Buchecha versus Rodolfo Vieira. I'll be saying Ashley Williams versus Ethan Crelinsten. Congratulations. We'll just skip ahead to the belt giving a great performance against another top athlete. Hopefully many more to come once all of this is over and we'll be able to watch you win loads of championships here in Polaris. Nice work, Ashley. Good fight.